Welcome to another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. I am your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments. For all of your real estate needs in South Florida, make sure to follow me at Rafi the Realtor on Instagram. Sign up to my newsletter. I have close to 2,000 people getting my emails on a weekly basis, and I'm adding people to it daily. So the numbers are growing. It's really amazing to have such a large group of people getting my emails. We'd love to have you join. Without further ado, we have the creator of Homebound to Eretz Yisroel, which means homebound to the land of Israel, where he is on a mission to bring the Hebrews home. He is a childhood friend of mine. He is actually the guy who got me to start working out when I was about 15 years old. Really just an awesome human being, very funny, extremely creative. He has a very creative mind. When we were younger, he built a massive pirate ship out of popsicle sticks. He built a pool table by himself. He's just somebody who comes up with these brilliant ideas in his brain and just makes them come to life. So Mr. Michal Weichbrod.
With an introduction like that, I'm a little nervous. I feel like I have to really prove myself now.
Yeah, you got a lot. You got a lot to do.
Creativity and talents and deepness.
Yes, but so now he moved from the wonderful tropical state of New York. Now resides in the Holy Land, and you do multiple things now. I know you write. He's a sofer. So for whoever doesn't know what that means, he writes the Old Testament essentially. He writes
a scribe. A scribe.
Right, a scribe. Okay. So that's what he does. He also does woodwork, carpentry. If there's anything else I'm missing, please let me know. And without further ado, kind sir, the floor is yours. He's also a husband and a father of three. Or do you have three kids, right? Or do you have four already? I'm forgetting. Four. It's a lot of kids. Yeah.
Well,
the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I'll say hello. You're the host. You're the one that has to start the conversations. But thank you very much, Rafi, for having me on your podcast. We were both Rafi and I were both very surprised when we remade contact just a few weeks ago after many years, and we were both pleasantly surprised to find out we're both content creators. Somehow life brought us to similar places, and so that's pretty cool. So now we have something cool that we could share together and help each other with. And I have my YouTube channel. I have a small podcast. I don't really have like a weekly podcast, but I do a little podcasting, a little this, a little that. But anyway, it's really cool to be on this podcast and excited to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take it. Listen, Saucy Pants. I'm gonna lead the conversation. I just wanted you to give give a little bit of an introduction, but we have plenty of questions. It's gonna be a really natural, awesome schmooze. We have a lot of great memories together. So I hope you guys are gonna enjoy this one. It's gonna be good.
I would give an introduction to myself, but you've already covered all the things I would say. I'm talented, smart, creative. I mean, you didn't talk about how good looking I am.
But yes, yeah. Even with the receding hairline, I think you're very handsome.
So you don't need to mention that.
Yes. Also, he blinks a lot because he's flirting with me for some reason. So I'm letting you know, if you guys are wondering why does he blink so much, it's just he misses me. It's been a long time.
I've been twitching since I was a little kid. This is the best it's ever been. Usually I'm like a weird freak of nature flopping around.
Funny because I remembered it, but it didn't really occur to me because it's been so I got used to it.
I'm like a crazy person, but I make it seem natural.
I know, it's great. I blink also more often than probably your average person, but I just have dry eyes, so I need to get eye drops. But
I have a fan right on my face, so that also is not helping.
It's not, guys. Also, I need you guys to vote who has the better beard because we don't seem to agree on this. He wants to be wrong, and that's okay. He's entitled to be. I'm getting a haircut on Wednesday, dude. So this is gonna look even better than it does now.
But there's a lot behind the beard. You see, like there's how the beard looks, but then there's also the amount of mental control we have over the beard. So, for example, this morning I was clean shaven, and then I decided to have a beard for the podcast. So I brought forth the beard.
I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't will my beard into existence. It's a different thing. But that's also part of what happens when you move to Israel. So he's gonna cover that.
Yeah.
Beard
And naturally you need to have a beard here, so it comes out.
Yeah. So, sir, I have so many things to discuss with you. First and foremost, what caused this channel creation, the Homebound Eretz Yisroel channel? What was the reason? What helped you create such a channel?
So I had basically I didn't necessarily plan at any point before I actually moved here to move to Israel. I always, learning the Torah, learning the Old Testament, as you say. There's so much talk about Israel, that it's our homeland and that God gave it to us as a gift and as a place for us to, have a stronger build our connection to God. And there's so much talk in the Bible about that. But to some extent, like a lot of Jews, I think we kind of just like shrug that off as like, that's like, a thing of the past, maybe a thing of the future Messiah, but it's not, currently it's like, just stay put wherever you are and just do your thing. But I always had it floating in my head that like, something's just odd that like, Israel has over at least the past, 75, 80 years has become a very feasible place to live. And so many Jews are just not taking advantage of that. And that kind of did bother me along with some other things. But I kind of ignored that feeling for a few years and didn't pay too much attention to it. I was busy, had my businesses and my wife and kids and all kinds of things going on. But then one day, something in my brain just clicked. And I don't know what it was, but something clicked. And I decided I need to live in Israel. I'm always trying to grow spiritually. I'm an observant Jew. A big part of my life is learning the Torah, performing the mitzvos, the commandments. And so I'm always trying to grow as a Jew and become, more connected to God. And one day it just clicked that Israel is the place I need to be in order for me to take my next step in my spirituality. And as soon as that click happened, I couldn't go back on it. It just took over everything in my life. And I was living in Israel 6 months after that. Within those 6 months, I sold my business, my cars, my house, said goodbye to my family and friends, and completely restarted my life here. Then what I realized here, I've been struggling immensely to figure out what is this click that like a lot of people, they understand that Israel is the place that, it's the Jewish homeland. A lot, it's important for Jews to live here. But like, what is that click that happened to me and that seems to happen to people that all of a sudden one day they wake up and they're like, I need to be there. And what I personally found, what I believe it is, and there are sources to this in scripture and everything, that somehow Israel, it calls you. In a certain sense, it chooses you. And that's something I believe in. And in order to be chosen, in a certain sense, by Israel to come back here to our homeland and continue the Jewish destiny, the Jewish legacy, you do need to at least start with a desire. You need to start with an understanding of why it's important to live here. And when you delve into that enough, eventually that something happens at a certain point in your life, and all of a sudden it goes from something that seems to be impossible to do to something that seems like you need to do. And so when I realized all this, I sort of felt like I had a calling in life, because I found I was good with script writing. I was good with making videos. I'm a very passionate person. And with all these things and my feelings of spirituality and my feelings towards Israel and all the things I just sort of said, I almost felt like it's my duty to create content and try to influence, motivate, and inspire my fellow Jews to return back to our homeland and possibly finish our ultimate legacy, which is the coming of Mashiach, the Messiah. And so I felt like I almost kind of felt like I finally found a calling in my spiritual life of what it is I need to do for my people. And that's how this all began.
Wow, that's intense. So it's obviously l'chaim, dude. Cheers. So there's so much to take from this, right? Because obviously there's still a lot of people like myself who still live in the States. So what are you doing with the channel? Now I've watched your channel, but obviously for people who haven't, what are you doing with your channel to make people say, you know what, Mike has a point. This is something that I should also do. Meaning, what's so terrible about people living outside of Israel? Why should they have this calling or this feeling to do what you did?
So there are certain people that kind of do what I do, and they try to promote, Aliyah, which is Aliyah is the Hebrew word for Jews ascending to our homeland, to Israel. And so I did find that there are a lot of people that are doing what I'm doing, take it too far. They say things sort of like kind of what you just said, that it's like it's literally the most terrible thing not to live in Israel. Every Jew must, as long as we don't live in Israel, it's the cause of all our problems. And the truth is, I sort of do believe that in a certain sense, but I also understand that unless you kind of feel that is a fanatic sort of view. So
Is it also realistic? I don't think unless, and that's why you brought up the anti-Semitic. I saw your video to interject quickly. Unless it becomes so unsafe for Jews out anywhere outside of Israel, the idea of having every single Jew leave every other country in the world is just super unrealistic. I don't even think in the days of the olden times of Israel, there were Jews that lived outside of Israel. They traded and worked and yada yada. So how much do 90% of the Jews need to come back? Do 95% to expect every single last one to come back? That's tough to do.
Right. So I don't see what I'm doing as something that's going to, be fully successful in a short period of time. This is a long-term mission. I happen to believe that in a certain sense, I don't even believe that my job so much, and I say this in a lot of my videos, I don't even think that my job right now is to convince necessarily the individuals watching my videos that they need to come to Eretz Yisroel, to Israel right away. I kind of feel like I want them to believe it enough that even if they can't do it, at least let them teach their children. If you would watch a lot of my videos, you would see that even the video that I made about the rise in anti-Semitism and, that people need to get out of America and that things are getting out of control, although these things are true to some extent, that's not the base of my argument. I don't like to base my entire side of the argument as get out, run away. For me, that is a small part of it that I do, but for me, the core of it is that you should be here because being here will allow you to be holier. It'll allow you to be closer to God. It'll allow you to fulfill your mission as a Jew, your spiritual mission as a Jew. God writes in the Bible that for the Jewish people, at least, that this is the land. It's a land that flows with milk and honey. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean milk and honey in a physical sense. It means that this is the land that has everything that we need as Jews. And our jobs as Jews is not necessarily a physical job, it's a spiritual job. It's to be a light unto the nations. It's to show the world what it is to be, to have morality, to be a loving, peaceful people, and to be a godly people. And in order for us to complete our mission, the ultimate place for us to complete our mission is in Israel. So for me, again, there's so much to talk about here, but it's
yeah. You just brought up two things you said made me automatically think of two devil's advocate questions, like automatically. And hold your thought. Two of them were, if Israel is the best place to fulfill your mission as a Jew, especially as a devout Jew, then why are there so many Israelis that aren't practicing? That's one. Two, playing devil's advocate, say for Natura Carta, where people who are, you say, these anti-Zionist Jews, they say, well, look how much Israel has, look at what position Israel has put themselves in the international community. You talk about morality, but look what they're doing to the Palestinians, yada, yada, yada. So what are your, I have my own responses, but what are your responses to those two questions, to those two statements?
So just because Israel is the ultimate place to fulfill our mission doesn't mean that just being in Israel will allow you to fulfill that mission. In fact, it actually goes in a certain sense both ways. Israel is a place where when we fulfill the will of God in Israel, it's much more powerful. Also, it's known to us that if you go against the will of God in Israel,
if you fulfill the mission in Israel, if you fulfill your purpose, it's much more powerful. But the opposite is true too, that if you don't fulfill the mission, it has much more of a negative effect. That's what you're saying.
Right. So I never say that just being in Israel will make you a better Jew automatically.
Right.
It will facilitate you being a better Jew if that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying not to be a better Jew, the truth is it will actually, nowadays, being in Israel, even if you're not a religious Jew, and even if you're not observant and you're very far from serving God in a certain sense, just being in Israel is still very helpful. Like, for example, I know people who outside of Israel, when they stray from the religion, however you want to call it, they're not observant and they have no care to follow the Torah, the Bible, and they go very far off. So they end up, what do they end up doing? They end up intermarrying with not Jewish people. They end up living in communities where there's no Jewish people, and they cut themselves off from Jewish people. And by the time they have children, their children sometimes don't even know that they're Jewish. And if you look at America, I mean, there are, as we know, there are tens and tens of millions of Jews in America. So many of them either don't even know that they're Jewish or know that they're Jewish, but have nothing to do with Judaism. Here in Israel, even the completely secular Jews walk around with a Magen David necklace. They'll say things like Baruch Hashem. They'll say, I was in Tel Aviv on the Chag, on our holidays, I think it was on Sukkot. And I had so many people who were completely unaffiliated. They were saying Chag Sameach, which is happy holidays. And like, if I was in America, a non-affiliated Jew probably would not say that. So, and I was on the train recently, and I was sitting, and right in front of me were sitting also a bunch of people who clearly were not religious practicing Jews. And I heard amongst their conversation, a couple of times, some of them were saying, Baruch Hashem, which means blessed is God. And so even if you want to say that look around in Israel, you could see how many people are not religious and not doing the right thing according to our Torah, according to our laws. You can easily see how far they are, they still have a very strong connection. And even whether they know it or not, who are the people fighting? The majority of people fighting in the IDF. The majority of people fighting in the IDF are not religious, secular Jews. And whether they like it or not, they're performing one of the greatest commandments in the entire Torah, which is protecting the lives of their fellow Jews. So even not on purpose, even if they're trying to stray, and even if they have no care to connect to God, just being in Israel, serving the country, protecting the Jews in Israel, and being affiliated with so many Jews around them, they are already fulfilling so many commandments and being so much part of the Jewish nation, which to God, if you look in the Bible, it is by far the most important thing to God, more than us fulfilling any of his commandments. The most important thing for God is that the Jews are united. Anytime the Jews are not united, we face terrible plagues and wars, and we lose people, and it's all of the worst things always happen when the Jews are not united. So just the fact that we have that the Jews in Israel, it's the only place in the world that Jews have ever been and can be united. It says that also many times throughout our prophets, throughout our sages, they talk about this idea that the only place the Jews can unite and can truly fulfill their mission as a united nation, not as an individual. Individual missions you can fulfill, but as a united nation to fulfill our mission, which is the ultimate mission. As we know, everything in the Torah, everything in the Bible is about Klal Yisrael. It's never about you or you. Everything is about Klal Yisrael, which is the congregation of the Jews. Everything is about being united. So even if you want to say affiliated, not affiliated, any secular Jew I meet in the street here would give their life to protect me or my family. And you can't tell me, that would not be the case for a Jew who has no affiliation to our religion out in Kansas somewhere. You understand?
Right. Well, No, go ahead.
No. So just to end it up. So I'm saying to say that, look at Israel, look how many unaffiliated Jews are. You can, that's proof that Israel doesn't cater to being closer to God and building your connection to God. So there is a long answer to explain how, whether they like it or not, the Jews here are 1,000 times closer to God than any Jew outside of Israel.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You're also surrounded by Jews, whether you like it or not. You're going to see religious people. You know, you go to Jerusalem, the religion is around you. It permeates through you. You can't avoid it. You know, you can hang out with people that aren't religious. You can hang out in the most secular parts of Tel Aviv, but eventually you're going to drive through religious places. You're going to see people with kippot. It's there. Versus living in Charleston, South Carolina, you may never see Jews. You may be the only Jew in the neighborhood. So it's very valid. And also there's an existential threat to the country. So, the no atheists in a foxhole is a very true statement. And when you're serving in the military, you may be the most secular person, but when you're about to drive your Jeep through central Gaza or Rafah and, your head may get blown off, there's probably going to be a strong connection to God at some point.
Bless you. Do you sneeze this much in all your podcasts, or this is like special for me?
Dude, obviously this is special for you.
Yeah, and then while you're sneezing, I guess I could address your second question. I figured I'd let you talk, but at this point, I realize we're just going to sit here awkwardly watching.
My nose is doing all the talking. My nose is doing all the talking. Dude,
your second question was it something about the Notori?
My second question was that you? My second question was okay, the first one was why the secular Jews. Second one was about the anti-Zionists that would say, oh, well, you're talking about the security or the safety of the Jewish people. Why, or more, and you also mentioned morality, right? How we're supposed to be the light unto the nations and to teach morality to the rest of the world. What would you say to all of these people who go, morality? Because people may be listening to my podcast and go, morality? How could you guys teach morality? Baby killers. Blah, 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 blah. So what would I have a great response to this, but I obviously want to hear yours.
Right. So in regards to the morality, so to have a conversation about the morality of the IDF and the Jewish people, if you're only I'll put it like this. When I was making my Aliyah, when I was moving out of America to Israel, I actually met I had some metal, copper, because I was a plumber, that I was selling to a scrapyard. So I was talking to this guy that works at the scrapyard, and this guy, he told me basically I'm like the first Jew he ever met. I don't really know how or why. I guess he works at a scrapyard. Not too many Jews come around there. He was some sort of redneck fella, and he never really met too many Jews. And anyway, so we struck up a conversation. And at some point in the conversation, I told him, I'm actually getting rid of all my metal because I'm moving to Israel in a couple of weeks. And he's like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, I heard of Israel. I'm like, yeah, what'd you hear about Israel? Because I clearly saw this guy was, somebody who really didn't know much about the outside world. And he's like, I don't know too much about Israel. He's like, no offense, but like, I know that like they're always killing all the Arabs and causing all kinds of problems. And I'm like, that's all you know about Israel. And he's like, I never heard of anything else about Israel. So, like this guy listens to one or two, news channels. And so that's the full amount of his information. Every media outlet and every website, every YouTube video has their own agenda. But the fact of the matter is, so, depending on where you're getting your news, you're going to hear different things. So, for me to tell you, this is the truth, and you're going to say, oh, but I heard this. So it all depends where you're listening. But, so I could say whatever I want, and you could just dismiss it by saying, well, you're a Jew, you're lying, you're killing children, and your people are evil. So, whatever I say, you could just dismiss it. But the fact of the matter is, I can tell you what I know, living here, knowing my people, seeing firsthand what goes on. The fact is, here are facts that you can't deny. I mean, the IDF, anytime they bomb a building, they drop leaflets. They've been doing this for 30, 40 years now. They drop leaflets on the buildings saying, we are about to bomb this area. Leave. There is no army in history probably that has ever, maybe the American army did that a few times because they copied Israel. Nobody has ever done such a thing. Israel allows so many of their own soldiers to die for the sake of allowing aid. Like right now, they're allowing. I mean, what kind of country in history has ever allowed aid come in through their own country or through other countries while they're fighting a war with the other country?
Mm-hmm.
That is something that, I mean, the standards that Israel is held to are nobody ever in history has ever been held to any standards, even remotely close to what Israel is held to. And even at those crazy standards, we are still fulfilling most of them. So then you have like the situation of, everyone's running around yelling, leave the Palestinians alone, give them their land, this and that. But, on the college campuses, nobody's ever yelling, give back the hostages. Like there are still over 100, if they're even alive, who knows? But there are still supposedly at least over 100 hostages that these people took out of our country and brought into their country to murder, rape, and torture. And we're supposed to just say, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that we're just going to let that one slide along with the. I mean, I don't think does anyone know how many rockets? Let me tell you, because I live here. Okay, I get the local news. I see with my own eyes. I can hear the bombing every day. Okay, Israel, their bombs, their rockets, their missiles, they shoot precisely at targets after they've cleared the area, just to destroy buildings and try to find tunnels so they can destroy just the enemy and find the hostages and destroy the enemy. Pretty standard, pretty healthy stuff. Israel gets bombed probably with 10 times the amount of rockets from Hamas and Hezbollah and maybe whatever is left of ISIS. And those rockets are specifically aimed at our women, children, and innocent people. They don't shoot at army bases. They don't shoot at soldiers. They shoot rockets into the most heavily populated areas as possible. The only singular reason that in the last 30 years, every single Jew in Israel hasn't been mass murdered is because God blessed us with something called the Iron Dome. And it is a piece of technology that no other country has been able to invent. We were only able to invent it with the help of God. But the reason we put in so much effort to invent it is because we live in a place where we have rockets raining down on our heads every single day. Okay. And if it's not every day, it's every week. And this is not just recently of this war, of this, Gaza-Israel war. This is something that has been, I mean, since I moved to Israel 3.5 years ago, I have seen so many instances where Hamas just spontaneously on a Tuesday morning shoots 500 rockets right into Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, Sderot, and they aim for populated areas. Thank God they suck at shooting missiles, so half of them usually miss naturally, and the other half have to be shot down by the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome costs us an immense amount of money. I don't remember the exact numbers, but every single missile of the Iron Dome, whatever it is, $20,000, $30,000, whatever it is. I mean, this is costing us. People
so 50K per rocket. It could be more.
Right. It depends on the rocket. Now they're trying to figure out. I mean, they've already figured out how to start using laser beams to shoot at rockets. I mean, they're put so up against the wall that they had to invent machines that no other country ever needed to invent. No country America doesn't need to invent the Iron Dome. They never had a reason to invent the Iron Dome because Canada isn't shooting rockets at them.
Well, here's another thing. America also would not tolerate such a thing. They probably wouldn't invent the Iron Dome. Because
what was America's response to 9/11? They sent their army into the country and killed everyone necessary to send the message, you do not mess with us.
Yeah.
Israel is invaded by people that live in our country, that we let live in our country. Again, something that people don't necessarily know, okay? Gaza had Jews living there up until about 20 years ago. Israel themselves sent in their own soldiers into Gaza, took the Jewish people that were living rightfully in Gaza, physically pulled them out of their homes, took the entire city of Gush Katif, and gave it to the Arabs, a beautiful, flourishing city in Gaza. And they said, you can have it. Please just be at peace with us. What did the Palestinians do? They said, thank you very much. They destroyed everything there. They used every bit of money that they had to invest into rockets and guns. And as soon as they built up an artillery, that has been the base of all of their attacks at Israel for the past 15 years or so. And we gave them that. I mean, if anybody understands
this is why, Mike, this is why I love you. This is why I love you, because I'm letting you go off. Dude, I love this shit because I get so no, dude. If you listen to any of, I don't know, I won't be offended, but if you go and listen to my content on this, man, I get fired up.
Yeah, I mean, like I live in Israel, so I have not had too many opportunities to have this conversation with people that actually believe that the IDF is evil and we're actually killing babies. But you know, but if somebody were to look me in the eyes and really, you know, be like, and really honestly think that, like, why are your people killing so many innocent civilians? Like, I don't even think I can have a conversation with them. I'd be like, you are so lost. You are so, you have been fed so many lies. It's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling that how much the media controls the world. And I'll tell you the truth, somebody who was one of the first people to take full advantage of this was Hitler, Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, how did he go ahead and he get his entire country to be on board with committing genocide and mass murdering all the Jews in the world, or at least attempting to, and he was 3/4 successful. He killed out like 80% of European Jewry. And how did he do it? So how he started the process was many years before he began the process of exterminating the Jews. Sorry, the first person that he got, that he commissioned, was he paid the, I forgot his name, but the guy who ran the entire German media at that time. They had a radio at that time, and everyone was listening to the radio, and he started funding the guy who was in charge of the main German radio station, and he slowly started feeding the people over a period of a year, 2, 3, whatever it was, that, oh, you have financial problems, you know, the economy's not good, health issues, the Jewish people, Jewish doctors, they're not helping you, Jewish lawyers, Jewish accountants, Jewish bankers, they're taking your money, they're being greedy. And when it's amazing, and you see this, but right now, social media is like what Adolf Hitler had, except on steroids times 1,000. People, I mean, from what I've seen, I mean, your average American is taking in social media information for about 8 hours a day. That's not a joke. That's like the official current statistics on how much social media you're taking. So if you're taking in social media, and 90% of the social media is run by, you know, anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, you know, organizations, you're going to be getting a whole lot of anti-Jewish, anti-Israel news. And the truth is, the majority of people that know Jews, like personally very well, like them. You know, Jewish people have very good morals. We are very upstanding people. Like, yeah. I don't know of any non-Jewish person. I mean, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood. I never really, you know, built up a large not Jewish following. But like I did go to school for a period of a year in a completely not Jewish trade school. And everyone in the school was, you know, a lot of Spanish guys, a lot of black fellas. And I became very friendly with all of them. And they loved me. They loved me. A lot of them told me I'm the only Jew they ever met. And they're like, you Jews are good. I like you guys. And they said, I'm not necessarily, most Jews I know are just like me in regards to our morals, the way we speak, the way we think. We're just trained from the day we're born to have standards, to have etiquette, to care for another person, to be loving, peaceful people. You know, the Arabs are brought up with the top of their school system runs on this. Their psychological, everything about what they teach and preach their people is that the Jews are evil. Everything is under that. In our world, nobody ever preaches the Arabs are evil. We only don't like the Arabs because they keep trying to kill us. We got nothing against the Arabs. When I listen to a Jewish speech, most rabbis refer to the Arabs as our cousins. I'm sure, Rafi, you've heard this too. They refer to our cousins. An Arab would never refer to a Jew as a cousin. We refer to Arabs as cousins because even with all the death and the terrorism that they commit against us on a daily basis, we still barely have any hard feelings.
Yep.
And it's mind-boggling. And if anyone could really experience what it's like in the Jewish world for just a moment, I mean, they would just hug us. I think that's what they would do.
We don't have an innate hatred towards anybody. I don't wake up in the morning and say there. I have no issue. If the Palestinians, and I say Palestinians, but the Arab Muslims living in the country, if they did not have this desire to eradicate us and destroy the country, I would have zero issue with them. I'd have no problem being friends with them.
No problem at all. Absolutely no
problem. Ultimately, man, we are dancing around an issue that, if you know who Rabbi Manis Friedman is, I've been bringing this point up very, very often. He was on my podcast recently. This really comes down to, and I think you and I spoke about this when we reconnected a few weeks ago. This really comes down to the whole Yishmael Yitzchak argument. So for the non-Jews listening to this, the whole Ismail Isaac debate on who inherited the land. This is really where a lot of this stems from. And so you can't eliminate this religious belief from the Jews, nor can you remove it from the Islamic way of thought. These are deeply rooted beliefs. And at some point, the Arabs/Muslims are going to have to accept the reality that we're not going anywhere. And they have two choices to make. They can either keep fighting us or they can take what they have. But that, so if we agree to make Gaza a state for them, so be it. Do I support that necessarily? No, but if it means we can have peace and they stop actually firing rockets at us for the time being, so be it. What will happen when Messiah comes is a different story. But for the time being, if they can actually cut the shit and just say, you know what, we'll take this small piece of land, we'll call it a day, we'll do the best we can with it. I'm sure other countries will invest in them. I'm sure even Israelis will invest in developing hotels and buildings and whatnot. If they stop firing rockets and say, we're serious, we're done, we'll take Gaza, we're not going to try to fight you for the rest of the country, fine. The West Bank's a whole nother animal. That's something we would have to work to figure out. But they're not going to go to Jordan. That should have been their state. They're probably not going to just agree. They're not going to agree to just pick up and go there. So what I say is, and I say this very bluntly, I'm not afraid to say this, I've said this many times, there's really three options to this ever coming to a peaceful resolution. And that's, we go to, if it's not this war, it'll be another war down the road. We keep kicking the can down the road. It'll be another war where one party is largely killed off. And by the looks of it, since we're a lot stronger than they are, they would be the ones who end up dying. The second option is that most of one side is kicked out, which in this case, it would likely be them over us. And then the other is to make Gaza a state. You want to call it Palestine? Screw it. Leave us alone. Stop fighting us. They're probably not going to agree to making Gaza their state. So we're going to continue to perpetually be in this situation. And people, what's funny is I have all these funny analogies. I have an analogy with the hostages. I'll go to that in a moment. But people love to watch Vikings, Game of Thrones, Gladiator, Troy. They watch these movies where these two armies are going toe to toe and they pull their swords out. They're on horseback and they're just cutting heads off. And these people are sitting with their popcorn like, oh, wow. Oh. But when they see actual war happening on Instagram and they see a dead baby, they see dead children, it's horrible, but they can't fathom it. They're like, people are dying. You're killing them. It's like, this idiot. This has been happening forever and will continue to happen forever unless the Messiah eventually does come. People will kill each other in wars because they can't come to an agreement verbally. They cannot sit down and agree to something on paper, so they have to kill each other because that is the only unfortunate way, especially when one party has a pact, makes it not a pact, but a doctrine that says, we are on a mission to slaughter every single one of you. And so if you have that doctrine, you need to go. There's no other way. So people, of course, aren't going to understand it. You go to these Instagram pages where they have all this intense music and the father is holding his baby, his Gazan baby crying. Yeah, it looks horrible. Most people, especially in 2024, don't have the mental capacity to see the nuance, to see the what's going on, to see the bigger picture. Dead baby, father crying, Israel bad. There's no ability to think critically as to why that situation is the way it is. So according to these people, these idiot morons, Israel, because there's a man holding his dead child, Israel should have allowed Hamas to do what they did on October 7th. They should have allowed the hostages to be taken into Gaza and have done nothing about it. Their response is, well, they should do something in response, but you can't kill civilians. It's like, okay, fine. So that essentially means we can't wage war, because if no civilians die, then we can't wage war, which means we can't defend ourselves, which means we essentially have to just pick up and leave because you don't allow us to fight. Which is, to that I say, go fuck yourself. And if we need to kill a lot more people, unfortunately, then so be it. And I'm very blunt, dude. Like, I understand plenty of people can hate me for saying these things, but I'm just way too pragmatic and understand the realities of the way the world works. So and then when it comes to the hostages, and I'll be finished with my point in a moment. When it comes to hostages, people love to talk about the 210 Gazans that just died to save these 4 hostages. Anybody watching this, if your daughter was kidnapped for almost a year, your son as well, but especially your daughter, and who knows what was happening to her. And the only possible way, not a guarantee, to get her back was that the government of your country says, okay, these people, these terrorists took your daughter. We might be able to get her back, but 10,000 people who likely support the kidnapper's decision to take her will have to die in order to have a chance at saving her. Are you willing to do that? 95% of people, it may take them a day to think about it, probably would do it right then and there. They have to they have 2 buttons. The red button, no, don't save my daughter. Try your best to save her without killing any civilians. Maybe 10. We'll let you kill 10. That's what the red button does. The green button says, save my daughter right now. I don't care if you have to kill
everybody.
I don't care if you have to kill every woman, child, donkey, horse, goldfish, poodle. I want my daughter back. I guarantee you 95% of the human population would press the green button. So all these idiots sitting there protesting at UCLA and Columbia University would do anything to get their kid back. So it's I'm just, at this point, it doesn't even matter to me, because if somebody took my daughter, so someone took my son, but if someone took my daughter, I'll forget it. I'm not going to sit here, but don't take my daughter from me. I don't have a daughter yet, but don't even try. I don't care. We don't even go there. The point is, it's ridiculous, the standard that people hold Israel to, and the reality is that we're to blame for it to a large extent, because we keep trying to get the world to side with us. We should do things with morality. We should attempt not to slaughter every single person there. But the reality is you being a God-fearing person, Mike, you believe in God. It says very clearly in Devarim, it says in the Torah, that if you don't drive out the people from the land, then they will be a thorn in your side and they will bother you in the place that you dwell. And this is not some crazy extremist idea. This is common sense. If we didn't live in 2024, if we didn't live in the age where we had the United Nations, one side would have absolutely obliterated the other side. We wouldn't have all this technology. The Gazans have a choice to make, and quite frankly, so does Lebanon. Their economy's in the dump. You're going to have to eventually come to terms with the fact that the Jews aren't going anywhere. We're not going back to, we may have Jews in America like me, but we're not. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
They're going to have to come to terms with that, or else we're going to keep fighting. How much longer do you want to fight for? We're going to keep, I think they think we're just going to leave one day. So that's really what it comes down to. And if
there's a couple of very factual details that people need to understand. Let me first say about the saving the hostages, and how many people had to die to save the hostages. anyone who thinks the IDF, pulled up in helicopters and just started blasting everyone in sight, that's not what happened, and that's not what the IDF does. IDF would have been very happy to pull up in a helicopter, pick up the hostages, and leave. Okay, we lost. I think quite a few soldiers got injured. One soldier was killed on the Israeli side, and the only reason the IDF had to shoot people was because every single person in that area was shooting at the IDF. All the innocent civilians had machine guns and were shooting at the soldiers. It's a very tiny detail that they seem to leave out about the so-called innocent civilians that we happen to know here in Israel when we actually see the videos of what took place.
I mean, I don't know. It probably wasn't every single one, but it was definitely enough to be a massive problem. But I think, real quick, Mike, the biggest issue was where they were placed.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is we were saving hostages from enemy territory. We were saving them from the people that kidnapped them. Like, how peaceful do you think the saving of them is going to be? Like when you if you send in the FBI to commit one of the greatest drug busts of all time, and they're like, okay, you're going to enter a building, okay, and the entire building is going to be filled with drug dealers, all armed to the T. You need to get to the middle of the building and arrest the ringleader, okay? But it's really important you don't shoot anyone in the process, right? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, have you ever lived on planet Earth and experienced what it's like to be a human being? Like,
nobody did.
Our hostages from the enemies that murdered 1,200 of our people and kidnapped 200 and something of them, just a few months ago. Like, what do you think is going to happen in a hostage saving situation? Mind-boggling. And now also another thing that people, thank you, and someone's yelling. I'm on my porch. I think a lot of people can hear me. I'm giving a speech to the whole community.
That's awesome. That's actually, let's go.
I'm on my porch.
You're gonna walk outside. There's gonna be like 100 people like.
Yes, I'm seriously sitting on my porch. I'm talking very loud, so everyone can hear me. So hold on.
Just make sure they all tune in when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll tell them. And another thing that like a small detail of how did we end up in Israel? Well, besides the fact that obviously everyone knows this is not just according to our history. Like, all of human history acknowledges that Israel is called Israel because the Israeli people, right? Klal Yisroel, right? Israel is English for Yisroel, which is the name of our forefather, right? There's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who's actually named, his second name was Yisroel. And so we're called Klal Yisrael, the nation of Israel, and the country is named after us. Anyone that calls Israel Israel is inevitably acknowledging that it's the land. Like, you can't say Chinese people don't belong in China. Why do you think they're called Chinese and it's called China? Why? Like, do you think it's a coincidence that German people live in Germany and Russians live in Russia and Polish live in Poland? Like, only when it comes to Israel, it's not Israel's. No, Israel is the land of the Palestinians. What? Okay. Now also, okay, I'll skip a few things, but how did we end up in Israel in recent history? So, well, this is actually what happened. I'll give for anyone watching who actually doesn't know how we ended up back in Israel. Like, we were out of Israel there were always Jews living in Israel, small numbers of Jews. But how did we, in mass, end back up in Israel, a little less than 80 years ago? Well, what happened was Jews were spread around all over Europe, right? And also Arab countries. And we were all experiencing the same thing in every country we lived in Russia, in Poland, in Germany, and the Jews that lived in Arab countries, in Syria and Persia, all these places. All the Jews were experiencing the same thing: always being murdered, always being second-class citizens. That was always the case. Okay. Now, if you think I'm trying to, build up some sort of sympathy. I mean, just do a little bit of history searches. You'll see what the Jews have always been going through. Long before Germany, the Nazis tried to kill out all the Jews, for close to 1,000 years, Jews were always being put in little camps in Russia. They were always being put in their own second-class little towns, shoved into these ghettos where they were impossible to survive. Jews were the reason so many Jews became bankers. A lot of people know a lot of Jews were bankers. They were in finance because it was the only job that Jews were allowed to have. Really? Because why? Because Jews weren't allowed to have regular jobs. They were always second-class citizens everywhere. So what did they do? They said, we're not allowed to have jobs. All we have left to do is let's lend our money to people for interest. And Jews became bankers like the Rothschilds, right? Now, so after being murdered for thousands of years, right, Germany comes along and finally commits something that even the world was a little shocked by. They full-scale, openly committed genocide. Now, even that wouldn't have, received so much attention if they also didn't try to kill the rest of the world, right? Adolf Hitler, now, he killed 6 million plus Jews, but he also killed over 10 million other people just in World War II, right? So everyone was affected by it. And then, so when World War II died down, right? So the whole world, not the whole world, but the United Nations, no matter how much they hate the Jews, they all kind of had a little remorse. They're like, the Jews really have no place to live. I mean, like, they were just mass murdered in the few countries that they did live. You have a couple of Jews, European Jews, who managed to survive. Broken people with no family. They were in DP camps, displaced person camps, right? And they had nowhere to go. They had nothing left, no money, nothing. So they're like, let's give them Israel, the land that they used to live in, and let's give them a small area of Israel so they can have a tiny little area on this planet where they will be allowed to survive. Literally, that the UN hates Jews. That is open to the public. This is the only pro-Jewish, whatever you want to call it, pro-Jewish, what's the word? Not law, pro-Jewish, whatever you want to call it, thing that they passed that was actually beneficial to Jews. And they allowed us they gave a small part of Israel. Why? Because who owned Israel at that point? British. England, the British, right? The British owned it. And so they gave it to the Jews. They said, fine, you could live here. Then basically the Arabs, they hate the Jews with a burning passion. So they said, we're not having it. We don't want the Jews anywhere next to us. And, the British rightfully was allowed to let the Jews live there because it was their country. But that didn't matter. The Arabs said, no, we're going to kill them all. And they just kept fighting and fighting and fighting until basically, to make a long story short, the British couldn't handle it anymore. They just ditched. They said, we're out of here. Arabs, you take the West Bank, take a little this, a little that. Israel, you take a little this, a little that. You get a little strip in the middle, and we're done. They left, and now it was Israel and the Arabs that were in the land of Israel or Palestine, what they called it then, and along with billions of Arabs surrounding us in Jordan and Syria and Egypt. And we were left with this little strip of land in the middle. And it was the only place where we could live. Literally, the world didn't want us. There was not. And then all these countries said, let's just kill them. Let's just kill the Jews. Let's just kill the Jews. So they all joined together and tried to kill the Jews. And it was the 6-Day War, right? The War of Independence was the first one. And then the 6-Day War was after. And both of these wars were the same thing. It was literally hundreds of millions of Arabs joined together and said, let's kill the 100,000 Jews in the middle. Except both of those times, we kicked their butts, we destroyed them, took tons of their land, and then said, take all the land back. Just leave us alone, for God's sake. Just leave us. Both times, that's what they did. They beat them. The only reason we beat them was a miracle from God, which is clear. Everyone understands that. Okay, and then here we are, and people are like, leave Israel. Where are we going? The people that are telling us to leave Israel, the people in America are saying death to Jews, death to Israel, leave Israel. Well, if you don't want us, Germany just exterminated our people a few years ago. Like, where are we going exactly? China?
The moon. They want us to go to the moon, dude.
Like, by saying the Jews don't have a right to live in Israel, it's a politically correct way of saying you need to all die fast so we don't have to deal with you anymore.
Yep.
Because we don't like Jews. Because Jews, we have moral standards. We are the guilty conscience of the world, and the Christians inevitably are based off of us, but a large part of the world, generally the Christians are not the ones preaching death to Jews. The Christians are very pro-Jews living in Israel, right?
Now anyway.
Because they're also the only people that still believe in God and stand for spirituality and stand for these spiritual set of principles. It's the atheistic people who want us all dead because we're their guilty conscience, And that's what Hitler said. Hitler said, as long as one Jew remains alive, we will not be able to do what we do without a guilty conscience. Hitler himself said that.
Why would he say such a thing?
Well, why wouldn't he?
Why not just be accountable for your things, for what you do wrong? Why? He, in his own way, he seemed intelligent enough not to say something like that and not understand what he actually was saying. Meaning, let's not be accountable for what we do wrong. Let's kill the people who make us feel accountable.
Well, I mean, the people on the college campuses, I think for the most part, have a similar mindset. I mean, they want everything to be free. They don't want to have to work. They just, I don't know. I mean, the Germans were the enlightened people. And by enlightened, for the most part, that means they were some of the first large populations to sort of spread mass atheism. We're done with God. We're done with all those ancient beliefs. It's like a survival of the fittest thing. The Germans, right? Their mindset wasn't just against the Jews. The Jews were the top of the list, but it was against everyone. It was against blacks, homosexuals. I mean, they preached that, the white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed German man is the perfect being, and anyone else needs to be dead or enslaved to us. This was the morals that they were preaching. This is the enlightened Germany. So we stood against that more than anyone. We're the people that preach all men are made equal in the image of God. And that stood against what they were trying to do and what they believed in. They were trying to be superior to everyone. And we preach the opposite. So what better way to feel morally comfortable with pure evil than to get rid of the good in the world?
So what do you say? Okay, so what do you say to people that say, "Oh, what about all the Jewish supremacists now? All these Israelis, they're all Zionist supremacists. They think the Jews are the best. They think Arabs are second-class citizens." What do you say to that?
Jewish supremacists, you said?
Right.
Where's their Jewish supremacist?
I'm saying I'm playing devil's advocate. That's what they think we are nowadays. They think that the army is full. The IDF in Gaza is full of a bunch of Jewish supremacists that just think Gazan lives are worthless. That are worth as much as a bullet, and we're just going in there and killing everybody.
So I'll so you can think and say whatever you want based off of whatever lies the media feeds to you. But like I'll tell you some things that are facts. Like I had a baby here in this country. My wife gave birth in a hospital here in Jerusalem 1 year ago or a year and a half ago. And probably the majority of doctors and Arabs in the hospital, doctors and nurses were in the hospital were Arabs. There were some midwives that delivered my wife, they were Jews, but the vast majority of nurses that came in to check on the baby, to give my wife blood tests, were Arabs. There was a doctor that came in. He was a stomach doctor, whatever it's called. He had some things, they were concerned, some things about my baby, so they brought in the hospital specialist on stomach issues. He was a Arab. I recently saw, by recently I mean like a week ago, I saw somebody showed me a video of a college graduation here in Jerusalem, one of the colleges, and it showed the college graduation party, and it showed all the people that were graduating with their bachelors. And I would say anything between 60 to 70% of the class were Arabs. So second-class citizens, no. We have Arab politicians. We have Arabs on the Supreme Court here in Israel. We have Arabs in the army. We have Arab workers absolutely everywhere. An Arab who gets a regular Israeli citizenship, like in any country, is treated 100% with equal rights, with no restrictions whatsoever. So anyone who thinks that we're supremacists and that we treat Arabs as second-class citizens, I can't disprove you with anything other than that's just simply completely not true. Come to Israel and take a look. And I'll just tell you another thing. I mean, any American can get on a plane and fly to Israel, go to some restaurants, have a nice time. Are you frozen? You look frozen to me, Rafi. You're not moving.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, so you see people like you see in the news, a lot of celebrities that are pro-Israel are visiting Israel. They're coming down, taking a look at what happened October 7th. Before October 7th, before this situation, people, Americans, Chinese, Russia, anyone around the world comes to Israel. They visit, tourists. We have good restaurants, nice people, beautiful women. They all come. They get off a plane, visit Israel, get back on a plane, fly home, had a great time. How many people visited Gaza and had a great time? There have been a couple stories of people that visited Israel and by mistake ended up in Gaza somehow, and most of those people were beheaded. That's usually what happens if you visit Gaza. So, these things just talk for themselves. And if you don't believe the things I'm saying, you just haven't ever read any truthful news. It's that simple.
What's going on? You're right over there?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm talking too much.
Too many Coronas. You get the acid reflux is kicking in.
I started burning out my throat here.
Yeah, dude. You're an old dad. Yeah, man. You're getting into it. It's a lot, dude. I agree with you. I'm glad I had the opportunity to have these conversations with you. It's good. What do you think is going to happen though? Do you think we'll ever have peace? What do you think?
Absolutely not. Never.
Yeah. Okay.
Never. Their current religion. I don't think the Quran wasn't originally started with this, but currently their religion, at the top of their religion, their ultimate service of serving their God. Well, inevitably our God, but they serve the same God we do, but they just changed the Bible and made their own. And the top of their commandments is kill all Jews. And they're very religious people. So will we ever have peace? No, because this has nothing to do with the land. I mean, Arabs have, 9/11. Were they trying to kill Jews? No. Arab extremists want to kill everyone that's not Arab. That's not Muslim, that doesn't believe in Allah, their God. And they say it openly, it's not a secret. And the only reason they're not committing mass terrorism around the entire world is because they're so busy with us. And also because the IDF and Israel thwarts and stops most of their terrorist attacks from the outset. If not for Israel, the world would be experiencing a whole lot more terrorist bombings, shootings, stabbings, and attacks.
We're also extremely, extremely easygoing compared to what we could do. And what's interesting, that's what people love to say. People are like, oh, without American funding, it's like, first of all, there are probably enough wealthy Jews that could pull the $3 billion together every year if need be. Secondly, America benefits. What I'm so tired of hearing is you wouldn't be anything without America. There's no doubt that it helps to have America as backing, but it also shoots us in the leg to a massive degree because we have to answer to them. And they're not
Yeah.
allowing us to do what we need to do, which is a major issue. So similarly to with the Iron Dome, if we didn't have the Iron Dome, we would have to decimate Gaza. We wouldn't have a choice because our countries, or not our countries, our cities would be getting bombed left and right. We'd be losing thousands of civilians, thousands.
It's true. It's true. If not for the Iron Dome, they'd all be long dead. We'd
Yeah,
have no chance.
Gaza would be flattened completely. So Gazans have the Iron Dome to thank that their terrorist moron leadership can lob thousands and thousands of rockets in, and they're not completely destroyed. So that's a massive thing. It's the same way how instead of just going into the West Bank and absolutely killing everybody, we have people who commit car rammings. People just run people over with their cars, not even just the West Bank, but in other parts of Israel, Jerusalem and whatnot. So what do? We set up barriers. We set up these barriers around the bus stop. These big, tall barriers, they look ugly and ridiculous. So we take all these preventative measures. Instead of attacking them, we do, all right, you know what? Since the car rammings happened, we don't really have a good idea to stop the car rammings. We haven't come up with a punishment that's severe enough. So let's just build a bunch of beams around the bus stops. That's how problematic the situation is.
Yeah, it's not just bus stops. Over here, almost in Jerusalem specifically, at almost every single street corner, there are at least newer street corners that are, that have recently gone under construction. They're putting these barriers at all the corners. That's number one. Number two is we have metal detectors and security everywhere. There's security everywhere. Okay. Number three, every single apartment and house in Israel by law has to be built with a mamad, a bomb shelter. In my house, we have a bomb shelter. Every single house has a bomb shelter. Is there a country in the world other than Israel where by law, every single house and apartment needs to have a bomb shelter? No, no such thing. That doesn't exist. Okay. I mean, we're so used to it. It's normal, but that's crazy. You're building an apartment. You need a bomb shelter because missiles rain from the sky every day in Israel. But no, we don't talk about any of these things. None of these things.
Thing is, though, because you know what, dude, that's our problem. Our problem is that no matter how much we try to tell the world we're good, we don't want violence, we're trying to be peaceful, they go, no, you just not. There's. I believe, and I'm not the most practicing person. That's my own thing. We'll see where life takes me. I'm sure things can change when I'm married. We'll see what happens. Who knows? I do what I do.
To me, it seems like you're a very holy Jew. So
I appreciate that. That's sweet of you. What I think is crazy though is we put so much of an attempt to make everybody love us, we end up doing the opposite. And I look at it from an individual level. When I meet somebody who doesn't have strong formed opinions, who isn't willing to say no to people when those people don't share their values, when you aren't willing to walk away from something that's not healthy, when you don't set proper boundaries, people walk on you, they disrespect you, and they don't want to be around you. And as Jewish people, we're so used to being victimized. And this isn't me playing a victim card. This is just how it is. No matter how successful we become in any given country, which we've always done, we are so hated disproportionately. We try so hard to get people to like us. We show them all the good things we've given to the world. But look at all the inventions. Look at all the medicine. Look at all of these wonderful things we've contributed to the world. But you still do this. But you're still not perfect. But you say you're chosen. But you're not perfect enough. There are so many reasons for them, even though there really aren't enough, but there are reasons. You killed Jesus. You don't believe in Muhammad. You don't do this. You don't do that. No matter what we do, they're not going to like us. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't hold ourselves to a high standard. But at the same time, if we need to fight a war against people who have a goal of annihilating us, that war has to continue until it's done. If we have hostages that are taken from people who, again, have a goal of eradicating us, we need to do everything we have to do to get those people back. Hopefully that some of them are still alive. I mean, quite frankly, dude, it has to happen. The war needs to continue. If Israel pulls out of this war without Hamas either surrendering or having no capabilities, we really do not understand how bad that decision is. Not only does it mean that Hamas essentially won, it means that other neighboring armies like Hezbollah, the Houthis, all of Islamic Jihad, they are now under the impression that we're defeatable, that we're not as strong as we said we were and claim to be, and now they can go attack us in the future, which they already want to do, but they'll have that much more confidence. And
Yeah.
it also tells those same groups that the West is indefensible and they can go eventually attack the West. Whether they do it through jihad or whether they do it through what they call dawah, which is essentially verbal jihad, the goal of converting people, which is more of a subtle, gentle way of doing it. And eventually, they continue to grow and continue to spread to the West. Now, this sounds like I have some Islamophobic view of things. The religion has that goal. And if you want to be a Muslim in a non-Muslim country, by all means, I have no issue. You want to be Muslim in Israel, by all means. Live by the law of the country. You want to practice Islam, go right ahead. Unless you live in a Muslim country, you have to follow the laws of the land. If you want to live in France, if you want to live in Germany, you want to live in England, you don't get to practice Sharia law. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You want to practice Sharia law, go back to where you came from. And that's my issue with Islam. It's very simple. You left your country because of Sharia. Now you want to go implement. I'm not saying anything new. A million people have said this. It's just the most idiotic. It's so mind-blowing. It's like, I use this analogy. It's like a woman who was married to a physically abusive man, has the courage to leave that man, goes and finds a man who's not physically abusive, and then tries to convince him to become physically abusive to her. Yeah. Why are you not abusing me? Why are you not abusing me? It's like, but sweetheart, I'm a good guy. I thought you didn't want, didn't you leave your ex-husband because he? I know, but that's the best way to do it. It's like it's a wild example, but you left that country because of how badly you were treated and because of how little freedom you had. So now you want to go to another country that offers you those freedoms, allows you to practice the religion, and now you want to implement those exact things that caused you to leave your other country.
Yeah, anyone like us who who understands really what's going on, who has been to Israel or lives in Israel and sees what's going on, it can make you go crazy, just what we have to deal with and how what the world hears on the other end. It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. But I don't know. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. We're used to it. We're used to it, and there's nothing to do. We enjoy life too much to be bogged down by any of this,
I very much agree. I wasn't sure if you were making another point, if you were pausing to make another point. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's just the way it is. It's a side effect of it. It's a side effect of being a Heb, But what's nice to see now is that Jews seem to be very, very together, and that's something that I like to see. They're really, people are outspoken. It's something really special. So I think we spoke for a hell of a long time. We really went into this discussion of anti-Semitism, of geopolitics, of the worldview of Jews, the future of Israel. We didn't go too much into the future of Israel, but according to what you said, and I agree, we're probably going to be fighting for quite a long time. Probably until Mashiach, Messiah comes, whenever that will be. Probably long after you and I are alive.
Yeah, I think sooner than that. Because again, this war isn't ending. The Arabs aren't stopping anytime soon. So I believe it will end with the Mashiach. And if Mashiach doesn't come in our lifetime, and we'll probably see the Jews eventually having to kill a lot of Arabs, because there's only so long we can watch our people die. So something big is going to happen in our lifetime. There's no question about it. It just has to be by the the natural way of things. But yeah, I think your Arab viewers particularly will will have enjoyed this episode.
No, believe it or not, you know what's crazy, dude? I haven't been big enough. I really believe this, and I say this in a very humble way. I think that I know for sure there are Palestinians who've listened to my stuff. I know there are Palestinian Americans who've listened to my stuff. They might still listen to my stuff. I know there are definitely Muslims who watch my channel. I get very few negative comments. I've gotten them. I've gotten now again. I have a small channel, so I acknowledge that it's largely for that reason. But even for my size channel, I'm surprised I haven't gotten death threats yet. And they're probably inevitable at some point. But I think that I'm articulate enough, and I also have enough of a sensitivity to the other side. And when I say sensitivity, I mean that even though I don't agree with them, I understand them. I understand where they come from. They have a religious belief. They don't want us to have the land, yada yada yada. But I think when they listen to what I'm saying, if they're intelligent enough, they can understand that we're simply not going anywhere. This isn't some white colonialist project.
Yeah.
You know?
Why'd you name your channel Soothing Semantics?
It's a good question, man. It was an alliteration. It just rolled off the tongue, man. It just came to me, man. I was thinking of just doing some boring thing like the Rafi Pinsky podcast or like the Pinsky podcast, and I was like, too many people use their names. I just thought it was cliche, and Soothing Semantics doesn't really mean anything, and that's kind of why I chose it. It's kind of broad. I chose not
because
to.
As we're talking this whole time, I'm thinking like this episode is not soothing at all. This episode is full of violence, death,
intense semantics. That's what throws people off. They don't see it coming. No, it's good, dude. Listen, I don't think the name is going to be a major factor. If at some point I find a better name, I could always change it. But I think it's cool. It's enough of a challenge that too many people don't know what the word semantics is. Can't tell you how many times they're like, "Oh, let me subscribe to your channel." They either can't spell it or they don't even know what it is. I'm just like, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't watch my stuff.
If you're not intelligent enough to spell semantics, you shouldn't be watching my content.
If you're American, at least, you know what I mean. But that's why I weed them out. No, but it's yeah, dude. This is a great discussion. I know what people who listen to my stuff might think it's repetitive, but every time I have these conversations, I learn new viewpoints. I become a little smarter every time. And ultimately, every new video I make puts myself out there just a little bit more, and hopefully more people can hear it, whether that's people on our side who are trying to make their points. It's not about changing minds. It's really about showing that there's enough people willing to speak their mind, be proud. There are Jewish people. That's one thing we've gotten so used to being quiet and avoiding conflict. We need to get very comfortable with being confrontational. It's not that we should look to do it, but Jews, we have a country. We have a military now. There's no need to be quiet, shy, and timid anymore. We can't afford to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah, you know? For the most part, I think most human beings, I think, inevitably deep down inside are good. Most people are built off of goodness, and they want to experience goodness, and they want to give goodness. Like, for example, the reason so many people think that Israel's bad and hate Israel and hate Jews, not because they're bad people. They're being fed lies by the media, and the media is feeding them lies because somebody's paying the media to do so. And the people at the top who are making the whole world think certain things, those few people are bad, because those few people are doing everything for money and power. But at the end of the day, these channels like this are, and like what I do also on my channel, the Homebound channel, and just trying to, I cater more to religious Jews and talk more from a spiritual standpoint. But we're just trying. We're not convincing anyone. We're just telling people the truth. And if you can get the truth into someone's head, then naturally they're gonna take the right side.
Yeah.
You don't need to be that good to take the side of Israel against Hamas. You don't need to be a very good person to do it. You just need to know a little bit of the truth. But nowadays there's so much falsehood being spread that we need as many people like us to spread the truth as possible. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to influence people eventually, and let them see
I'm
what
sure you do. People, you have more of an effect than you realize sometimes. It's also,
exactly.
yeah, I do think a lot of people have good intentions. A lot of these protesters, and even on campuses, they're just ill-informed and they're dumb. They're not necessarily bad people. It's very easy to look at both sides and say, okay, more people are dying on that side. Their land looks destroyed. They don't have resources. They are automatically correct. It's not how the world works.
Yeah.
You cannot have such a black and white conversation. Just because somebody is losing a war does not mean they're right. To think that, you need to spend a lot more time learning things that matter. You're spending way too much time playing video games. You're spending way too much time at brunch. I don't know what you're doing, but if you think that a losing side is automatically right, then you have to learn. And I can't even. I don't have the time to.
When enough countries joined World War II and finally started beating Germany, nobody was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Not fear, draw back." It was like, no, that's the goal. Let's get enough people, destroy them.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's the Jews doing the world also isn't used to Jews up until the modern state of Israel. I mean, yeah, we had periods of time way back in the day, but we were not seen as warrior people for a very long time. We had groups of Jews. There, you look through history. We had Yemen. There was a group of Yemenite Jews, Habani Jews. They protected, I think, the king of Jordan at the time. They were known for being very good fighters. There were Jews in, let's say, the Kafkazi Jews in Azerbaijan. They were also known as being warriors. You have Jews in different parts of history that were very skilled fighters. But for the most part, we were a small minority in other people's countries. We didn't have our own military, and we were at the whim of whatever the country decided. Now that we're together, people know that Jews are strong when they're together. They know that. They know that as a minority, we're very powerful. So we come together in a country. What happens? All the brain power, all the intelligence, all the unity we create. We're a force to be reckoned with. And the world's like, we're not ready for this. Hold on. Wait a minute. You guys are a nuclear superpower. You guys are the size of New Jersey. That's a lot. And so they test us and they poke at us. And we, things happen they weren't expecting. And they're like, wait a minute, guys. This isn't the Jew we're used to. We would prefer if you were a little bit more of the victims you used to be. And we're like, no, those days are over, guys. They're not ready for it. It's been 76 years. They still haven't gotten used to it.
Eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, Mike and I used to crack jokes all the time when we were younger, but there's serious discussions afoot.
Yeah, we're gonna have you here anyways eventually. No, Rafi?
Listen, man.
Soothing Semantics is coming down to Israel.
I'm coming up. Remember, you just went through that whole Aliyah discussion.
Coming up, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Well, the phrase works when you say coming down.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, dude. Listen, it's definitely it's definitely something that I would like to eventually do. We'll see where life takes me. I'm watching your channel. You're definitely selling it. You're selling it nicely. I'll tell you that. But yeah, listen, we'll see what happens. For now, Miami's not too bad. So that's that. All right. I hope you. You know what you could do also. I'm thinking for peace in the Middle East, you can build another little island made out of popsicle sticks and just let the Palestinians go there.
Yeah.
You build them a huge popsicle boat.
I like that idea.
Yeah, in a popsicle country, and then if they want to continue to bomb us, you just give them some popsicle sticks and say, just play with these. All right, just play with the popsicle sticks. You guys are getting a little excited.
Yeah. You should become the Prime Minister of Israel with ideas that good.
I honestly, dude, I straight up, life is a funny thing. I wouldn't want to be the prime minister for a few reasons. First off, I when I compare myself to someone like Netanyahu, who I think is a lot more intelligent than I am, I also think he has much more military knowledge than I. I mean, enormously more. He was in the best unit in the Israeli army. I, I don't believe I could do a better job than he can. Definitely not. And it's not a matter of confidence or not. I just don't think so. Someone else, perhaps, but from even just a military standpoint, I don't have that kind of knowledge, man. And it's super important for a leader of Israel. I think the leader of Israel should absolutely have very, very strong military experience, firsthand experience.
That's really humble of you, Rafi, to admit that you don't think you'd be a better prime minister than Netanyahu. Because like the rest of us thought that you would make a better prime minister.
A lot of it's funny though, you're being a facetious butthead, but a lot of these people think, oh, I would be a better prime minister than he would. If people think, a lot of people think that, they're dumb enough to think that.
You think we did enough for this episode, or you think the three people that have made it this far still want to hear us talk?
I think give him more. Let's give him more. I think they need more time. Listen, when your channel grows to 100,000 followers next week because of how non-niche because of the millions of people looking to move to Israel tomorrow, then hopefully my channel will grow as a result. I'm just clinging to your back here, you know. Your channel will grow by the hundreds of thousands in the next couple of days, and those three will eventually increase to 4.5.
Wow.
Intense.
I can't even think about those numbers, man.
I know, dude. Wild.
Wow. Well, for those three individuals, we want to thank you for making it this far. And Rafi has a special gift just for you. Rafi, tell them about the plane tickets and the vacation they just won.
Let's go. For all my Israelis, I have a ticket straight to the Maldives.
Let's see if it works. First person to write promo code Israel in the comments section gets a free ticket to
Let's go to the country you can't go to. Ladies and gents, I thank the three of you for making it this far. As always, for any of your real estate needs, we'd love to help you. So make sure to go to Rafi the Realtor on Instagram and sign up for my newsletter, obviously. Call or text if you have my number. If you don't, it is very easy to get my contact info. All you have to be is the slightest bit tech savvy, or you can Google my name and my number will come up. Mike Weichbrod, or as they say, as you say now, Michal Weichbrod, Mitchell Weichbrod. Thank you for joining me for probably what is it, 2 hours now that we've been talking?
No, it's like probably a little over an hour and a half.
It's been quite some time.
Ladies and gents, my apologies for the merge that we had to make. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi in my building went out, and I also had trouble connecting hotspot to the computer. So we make do with what we have. So just closing thoughts, making jokes about the three viewers at the end. So Mike, I appreciate you coming. Please feel free to plug in any of your channels. Obviously, Homebound to Eretz Yisroel on YouTube. I'm going to add your name, the link in the description. But please, man, the floor is yours. Any closing thoughts? Go ahead.
Any closing thoughts? Yes. So anyone who made it this far, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. I'm sure anyone who would listen to us to this point probably is a supporter of Israel, supporter of the Jewish people. So keep on supporting, man. We appreciate it. I could plug myself. I'll plug myself. We got the Homebound channel. Anyone who's a little more spiritually inclined might enjoy my content. And then I have my actual business, which is also named after Israel. It's called Jerusalem Video Productions. Jerusalem Productions.
Oh, I missed that.
What?
I totally forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do for a living, right? So I have Jerusalem Productions. You can put a link to that also, maybe. And And although I only do recording here in Israel, I do a lot of work still in America. I make a lot of social media ads, graphic, text. I do all kinds of stuff. So if anyone needs that for the, at this point, our 2 listeners, if either one of you need a video, call me.
Mike, I'm not going to share this. I'm not, and I'm going to stop sharing your content. That's it.
That's good. That's good. No, I'm joking around, guys. We got a lot of people still watching, so.
Yes.
So yeah, that's those are my plugs. Those are my plugs. I'm not going to plug any of my other businesses because I don't care about them. And it was a pleasure being here. I mean, on my porch, I guess, but talking to you. It's always a pleasure.
I counted 7,562 blinks and about 14 belches over the course of our podcast.
What are you gonna do, man? I would just say, like, if I want to come off cool, I'll just say, yeah, I have a photographic memory. Every time I'm blinking, it's in here forever. So just means everything forever is going to be happening.
Got it.
Like Cam Jansen, I don't know if you remember those books, Cam Jansen. She would blink and then she'd remember it forever. But yeah, anyways, thanks for having me on your podcast. And
do you want to just make at least 3 more jokes about how few viewers we have, just so we hit the threshold there.
A few more jokes, okay. Well, there's a good chance the 2 viewers that are still on are the same 2 viewers that make it to the end of my videos. So they already know my jokes, Anyway, like I text you, Jerry and Samantha, keep it up. We appreciate your patience.
Yes.
Now, like your channel, my channel, like, we're still growing. We still have a lot of, obviously we don't have a huge following just yet, but like you go like Mr. Beast, right? Like if you go to his original videos, they also have hundreds of millions of views. Now they didn't have hundreds of millions of views when he first made them, but after he went big, people are going back and watching them. So although the people watching this video, in 2024, it's just going to be Jerry and Samantha at this point. But 2025, we have Will and we have Alan. Alan, I know you're there. so we know they're going to be coming back to these
Alan,
videos.
It's not just any Alan. It's Moshe Goldstein's cousin, Alan Goldstein.
Yeah, sure, the lawyer.
He's not a lawyer, as far as I know. He fixes air conditioners. If you need anyone to fix your air conditioners, Alan Goldstein, baby. That's it. Not making any money on that ad. That's it. They'll
be watching this.
When some of my videos get a lot of views, people go and they watch older videos. It's at the end of the day, it all trickles down. So
absolutely, a lot of people tell me that also. They say, I came across one of your video, loved it, I went back and watched everything. So people do that. I mean, it's going to be hard to do that with 2-hour podcasts. but people listen to this stuff during, working and stuff. So
No, listen. Listen to me. I don't overthink these things, man. If a conversation flows, it flows. People are going to listen. I get views, 300 views. I'm not going to make a 15-minute video for every podcast and cut a good conversation short because I might get 6,000 views versus 300. And some people may disagree with that, but I need to. I got to keep it real. The conversation flows. I'm going to have it. People who listen to it, whether I get 6,000 views now or in 2 years, I need to make the content that's valuable. So if the schmooze is good, I keep the schmooze going.
Yeah. I have the same mindset. I watch a lot of these videos on YouTube where, they talk about, the perfect time frame for types of videos, how to, the type of title, thumbnail, everything down to the last detail. And I'm just like, look, I'm making good content. I'm making content that I believe in. Those who appreciate it will watch it, whether the thumbnail is cool or not, whether the video is 13 minutes or 17 minutes. Like if they're watching, you know, there are people that make channels just to get views and make money, but we're not doing that. We're trying to produce some sort of meaningful content. So the people that stick through, you know, we're putting in, and you know, we take for granted the amount of people that are on social media. Like if you get 300 views on a YouTube video, so like in the realm of YouTube, they're like, oh, that's nothing. What's 300 views? You know, I want 3 million views. But imagine you were giving a speech and 300 people showed up to the room. You'd be like, holy crap, I'm important. People care about me, you know? People care about what I have to say.
It's
So like,
wild to contextualize it like that. But
yeah,
dude,
so even if like 15 people made it to the end of this video till this point, let's say, I mean, there are 15 people who have just committed 2 hours of their life to listen to us talk. So thank you. Yeah, that's
it's crazy how crazy that is. Yeah.
And even if it's just one person, that's one person
that's like
that
2
is
hours.
happy that we sat here and had this conversation. And we're just ranting. And this dude is like, I had a crappy day, but these two weird weird loony bins, they just brought me a little happiness.
Yeah, dude, it's good.
So,
dude, this is some bromance right here, man. It's so nice to catch up. It's really good. This is a great way to do it. I hope we have many more schmoozes in the future, hopefully in person. And that's that. This was supposed to be a closing podcast. We ended up having a second podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say every time we have a phone call just to catch up, we should just make it into a podcast.
We might as well. Jerry and Samantha are long gone, by the way.
Yeah. It's just Samantha's dog. He's sitting there wagging his tail and he's like
smelling the screen.
He's pissing on the computer right now.
I thought you got this dog computer off.
No, it's good.
Right,
it's good.
Folks.
Anyway.
Jerusa Films, check him out. I totally forgot about his incredibly large and successful filmmaking company. And yes, I'm glad we were able to continue the video going for the additional Twitches. And Mike, you're the man. You really are. You're wise beyond your years, my friend. So thank you for joining me. And I hope whoever made it this far made it this far. And as always, guys, subscribe, like, and share. Make sure to follow Mike's channel. He's doing some good stuff.
And if you did make it this far, leave a comment.
Yeah,
let us know that you appreciated the 20-minute rant we just went on for the ending. Let us know, because me and Rafi, you're gonna make our days if you let us know that you appreciated what we just did.
You holding a knife? Are you holding a knife?
That's a bottle. It's a wine opener.
Because that's a bit threatening to be. They don't. Doesn't look like they have a choice in the matter at this point.
I'll cork you. All right. Have a good night, Rafi. Good night, Jerry. Samantha's dog. Sleep tight.
Good, guys. All the best. This has been another episode of Soothing Semantics. Take care.